Hello and welcome back to Genesis Designs and Modelcraft, and welcome back to more modelling for beginners with the Airfix P-51 Mustang, and welcome back to this series for the last time, because this is the final episode, the finale if you will, because the model is, as you can probably tell, actually finished. So from where you saw it last, all I've done really is the final assembly, just those small parts that were in the dish before. They're all now fitted, and there weren't any real issues with that because, as I said in the last video, I did do test fitting and what have you as I went along, and it's always sensible to do that because there's nothing quite like the frustration of having your beautifully finished, painted and weathered model and your beautifully finished, painted and weathered small pieces, and finding that the two aren't interested in a meeting and having to do modifications and drilling and carving and messing about last minute. It's not fun, so it's best to do it as you go along. Just to run through that quickly then, so we had covered all of this during the build phase and the final assembly phases here, chiefly on this area talking about the undercarriage. So if I just flip Atheling over, you can see we're all fitted here underneath. Okay, no issues at all with any of this. Obviously I heavily modified the landing gear to take the wheels. The landing gear themselves, the main undercarriage legs, did fit absolutely fine. There is a square peg and a square hole, but what I did find was that interaction was quite sloppy initially. They needed a fairly firm push to really get them home into those beds to make them feel a bit tighter. I think I don't know if it's deliberate or not with Airfix. I'll have to have a chat with Matt sometime about it. They often seem to have a slightly tapered fit on a lot of parts, so that as you push them home they become tighter as they get, towards being fully fitted. Seems to be the case here. I'm not sure if it's deliberate or not, but it seems that way. Undercarriage doors, no issues whatsoever, all just dropped on exactly as advertised. I did find with the landing gear door actuator here that the peg on this end where it goes into the lowered door is possibly slightly long. Ideally maybe could be trimmed down a touch so that can be brought flush. I did not fit the landing light. The reason I didn't fit the landing light is because it was just moulded so terribly badly that I, being honest, couldn't really be bothered with the cleanup that it was going to take to get it to a state where it was going to look good. So I just omitted it. Alright, and we got drop tanks. Those have been covered pretty much. The only modification there was I did slightly relieve the drop tanks themselves to slip slightly more easily over these mounting holes. Nothing major. Propeller is just pushed on. It does have a slightly tapered shaft, and that is just pushed on, so it does rotate when you push it. No problems with the canopies. No, the aerial did fit into its hole, as actually did the underwing pitot. And that was it. All finished. As I say, no issues at all. So the model itself then. I did very much enjoy this build. I'd just let you look at the underneath for a minute. Quite a satisfying kit to work on, because in some ways, and at the risk of sounding slightly elitist, although it really isn't my intention, there's something quite enjoyable about taking a slightly less than stellar kit and making it a bit more stellar. And Airfix kits, in my experience, are absolute legends at this because they're really well designed, they're really well thought out, they're great kits, and what they lack is execution in production. So the production is a bit at the lower end of the quality scale, so you do get little things where a little bit of trimming and a little bit of fettling can make all the difference with these kits, as I think I've probably shown throughout this build. If I bring the main stang back in here, and we have lost a drop tank Don't know when, don't know where it is. Certainly haven't seen one kicking about lately. Obviously encountered some stray fucker wolves on the way home from the last mission. But yeah, if I put them together, I don't think the main kit was guilty of winning any awards when it came out. I quite liked it. I liked the way they went about designing it. But you can't deny that it's a good looking model when it's finished. And I really don't think the Airfix loses anything to it at all. The detail is just as good. There's a bit more riveting on the main kit, but whether or not you like that is really pretty much a personal thing anyway. The Tamiya kit's the same in surface detail terms. I actually think the Airfix kit is better. And it's definitely better in terms of actual detail in the cockpit and in the wheel well bays. It's better than the Tamiya kit, genuinely. What it isn't better than, or the way in which it is not better than either the Tamiya or the main kit, is in ease of build. This is not an intrinsically difficult kit to build. Again, I think I've shown that fairly well throughout this series. However, there are little bits and pieces here and there that don't quite fit as well as they could, and do need a little bit of effort to make them super good. That is not the case with the main kit, and it's not the case with the Tamiya kit either. Both of those fit together beautifully and are crisply and fabulously well moulded throughout. I think it's fair to say that the Edward kit is better than any of them. I haven't actually built any of mine yet, but certainly they look the part from what I've seen in the box, and indeed finished builds around the place online. So I don't think they really compete with the Edward kit on level terms. But in all three cases, in fairness, are probably easier to build because Edward kits tend to be a little bit on the fiddly side. So let's take Mustang away again. I should put short fuse Sally to the side out of the way. Aftermarket extras then. This time I added the Edward sort of 3D decal instrument panel set and the seat belts. Are those worth doing? 100% yes. Very, very easy to use, and a definite little uptick in the detail, I think. Potentially get away without the seat belts if you're so inclined, but I think the seat belts add something too. Definitely worth doing that. The wheels, tricky. The Airfix wheel, the kit wheels are 100% a weak point of this kit. They're not very good. There's no polite way of putting it. They're just not very good. The Brassin wheels are a massive improvement, these main wheels, but not very easy to fit because of the way Airfix have designed the wheel fitment. They aren't easy to fit. I've shown you a way to do it. It's a bit fiddly and a bit tricky. It can be done, as you can see, but it does leave a pretty fragile interaction. And on the subject of fragility, although the fitment into the wing here is quite sound, look how flexible that leg is. It is quite true to scale in the thicknesses, and Airfix plastic is notoriously a little bit on the soft side. These are some pretty fragile gear legs. Likewise, the resin printed tail wheel leg. If I were to build this again, I wouldn't use it. I snapped it twice. It is glued back on and it's hanging in there, but the geometry is not quite right. The tyre's slightly askew and it is unbelievably weak. I don't think this is going to be a show pony, if you'll excuse the pun, because it's not going to take very many knocks for this undercarriage to just disintegrate, I think. So that's definitely a weak point. However, that said, if you build it and put it in the display case and leave it alone, I'm sure it'll be just fine. It could be worth looking at investing in some kind of aftermarket gear legs, the brass type rather than the white metal ones. White metal ones, I feel, are a complete waste of money because they're so soft that they collapse over time anyway. They don't really offer any advantage over plastic legs in my experience. but adding brass legs, if they're even available for this kit, will add a lot of expense. So that's something to be wary of and to be careful of, and potentially it might be better just to live with the kit wheels, to be honest, and leave what strength there is there available. With the rest of the build, pretty much trouble free. A little bit of filling here and there, a little bit of making good, nothing massive. I have shown in great detail everywhere where that was required, so hopefully anybody following on can get a grip on that quite well. I am not convinced with this mirror. There is a mirror fitted to this aircraft in the photos, but I have a strong feeling looking at them that it was actually fitted on the right hand corner here, not in the centre. There is no accommodation on the kit for the mirror to be fitted anywhere but centrally. So that's something to be wary of ahead of time. If you don't want the mirror, or if you want the mirror somewhere other than in the middle, you need to actually fill the mounting in the windscreen, which is going to be a tad fiddly. I have just painted that silver with a brush, although again in the photos it looks like it might be black. So that's that. As for the colours, I'm really happy with how this looks. There were the inevitable comments. I'm not bothered. I came to my own conclusions and I'm happy with them. I like the shade of blue. I think it looks sufficiently similar to what I see with my eyes in the photos. I'm perfectly happy with it. And now that everything's been brought together with the wash, the filter, the flat coat, I think it looks completely viable, honestly. Someone commented about the tailplane ID stripes, these black ID stripes that were already on the tailplane, still are on the underneath, and that they wouldn't have painted over those because that was a theatre requirement. 100% agree with that sentiment, actually, as it goes. And initially I wasn't going to overpaint them in blue either, but close examination of the colour photo suggested that they potentially were painted over, so I did, but I think it were, you know, logically they probably ought to have been left black, but I kind of like them how they are. As I said in the painting video, if you want to believe the aircraft was green, paint your model green. I don't mind. I'm not telling anybody that this is how this aircraft must be painted. This is simply my interpretation given the evidence available to me, and the fact that I don't mind if it's not accurate because it looks nice. And I know that is going to offend some, but at the end of the day, we're modelling for our own enjoyment, aren't we? So if you like what I've done and you want to go ahead and do that on your model, go ahead. If you don't, don't. The build cues and the method of stacking up the paint colours and all the masking, the way I went about adding all these colours is equally valid whether or not you use green, blue, pink, purple, whatever. So I'm quite happy with it. I think it's come out nice. I think it looks plausible, and it is genuinely a very attractive scheme. Actually, now that it's done, it looks very nice, and it's going to liven up the old display case quite well, isn't it? So leaving the markings and the paint scheme to one side then for a minute, I do think this kit is worthy of attention. I think it's worth a look. It's built up into a fine looking model, and you know, at the price that you can currently still buy this kit for of £20, Vince at modelsforsale.com does still have decent stock of this kit at that price. I think it's definitely worth a look if you don't already have a lot of P-51s in your collection. Certainly, I think probably one shouldn't disregard the kit just because it's Airfix, because whilst it perhaps isn't their finest work, it's certainly worth a look, I think. With all of that said, that really is it for this series, this second Modelling for Beginners series. There will be one more Modelling for Beginners series, which is going to be called Even More Modelling for Beginners, and as many of you know, is going to feature the Airfix Bolt and Pull Defiant kit. And I did not deliberately make all of these Modelling for Beginners series with Airfix kits. That one is going to be moving the game along just a little bit more from where we've been with this one. And I'll get an intro video out for you fairly soon, although I don't plan on starting that build for probably a couple of months. I want to catch up with a few other bits and pieces. So I do want to send out some thanks here. I want to thank Vince at Models for Sale for the excellent price on this kit and his continued support of myself and this channel. I want to send a big thank you to Premium Hobbies for the Mr. Paints and the absolutely fabulous Infinity Sanders. And I want to thank all of you for watching these videos, for watching this series, for all of the interactions you've offered, which I've found thoroughly entertaining. For the super thanks and for the coffees, the subs, everything. Thank you very, very much. I really do appreciate it. And I'm very, very glad that the series seems to have gone down so well across the board. So thank you so much, all of you, for all of that. So let's draw a line under more modelling for beginners here with this, the Airfix P-51 Mustang. And with all of that said, I think it only remains for me to say, look after yourselves, look after each other, and Genesis out.